5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Art of Move podcast with myself, Anthony Manuel, my good friend, Dr. William Raybar. We are still out here in the Canadian Rockies trying to find the grand unified theory behind human movement, biomechanics, functional fitness, and just living in the human body and the human experience in general. Will's got a cool new setup going on. We're now live in 4K, which is pretty sweet. We got some sweet mics. We got some sweet cameras. We got our Audio Technica matching headsets. So we are high tech today, and we're going to be talking about some Liver King stuff. We're going to be talking about the state of affairs in the functional fitness community, who's getting attention, who's not getting attention, who should be getting attention, and what the popular narrative along the mainstream and within the fringe is kind of going on. And what we kind of wanted to start with was a live stream that Naudi Aguilar, the founder of Functional Patterns, put out, I think just this morning, addressing and calling out the Liver King, who was recently sort of called out and had a leaked email describing his steroid cycle. He's been claiming natural for a long time on every podcast that he's been on. He's doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on his natural status, insisting that he's never taken steroids, never touched the stuff, and that everything that he was accomplishing from a physique perspective was purely from lifestyle, purely from following his 9 ancestral tenets of living the primal lifestyle, primal diet, eating liver, and ultimately making hundreds of millions of dollars selling his supplements, his ancestral supplements. He is one of the co-owners of, I think it's called Ancestral Health, which are the supplements that also Paul Saladino is involved with. So it's very, very interesting. There's a lot of controversy going on. There's a lot of like funky stuff happening, and a lot of hubbub around this guy who everyone knew was on steroids, but now that he was actually called out for it, and because he was, so aggressively insisting that he was natural, there's now this conversation about, well, he was taking advantage of people. He was using, fake natty status to sell this ideal of basically of this lifestyle to sell supplements so that he could prey on other people. And so that's the sort of narrative that's kind of emerging. No one is surprised that this guy was on steroids. No one, nor should you be. The guy is as red as tomato and as jacked as a bodybuilder stepping on stage for Mr. Olympia, or pretty close to it. And no one should be surprised by this. But just off the top of your head, man, any commentary on the whole debacle? Any thing that you're noticing within the narrative that you want to comment on before we get into Naudi's video?
First off, I can't believe that people wouldn't know that he's not natural. But I think there is a lot of people like that. He has a younger audience. He almost reminds me of a WWE or WWF wrestler. Like that's his shtick, it's like a larger than life guy. Back in the day when everyone's like, is wrestling real? Is wrestling real? You knew it was fake, but you wanted it to be real when you're a kid, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's kind of like that vibe. And I think that obviously he was on steroids. Why do I even know about this guy in the first place? I'm not sure, right? The algorithm pushes these larger than life guys out there. I tried to ignore them. My friends kept sending me, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to add this guy. More and more ridiculous stuff. I like the liver. I like the fact that he's eating good food. The supplements, are they bad? Probably not.
No.
Would I want if I could take everybody in America and give them, or Canada, and give them a liver supplement, I probably would. Right? That's my ideal my ideal way with it, right? So what is the actual issue here? The issue is he lied to his audience about how he obtained his one physique, because it's a lot of kids. I think his audience is pretty young. Should pull up what his audience is and the actual email here.
Yeah, I know that he has 1.7 million followers on Instagram.
Yeah,
and you're pulling up the actual email.
I'm gonna try to pull it up here.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
I haven't actually read it, to be honest.
It's a pretty extensive cycle that he was taking.
More plates, more dates. Who actually? I don't know this. So who actually leaked the email?
I think it was Derek from More Plates, More Dates was the one who leaked it out.
And
so I'll read the email real quick.
I'll pull it up actually.
Yeah. As it relates to my goals in the face of several fitness brands, including ancestral supplements, he talks about hiring a publicity agent to, get, however many millions followers by March, which he did. He has 1.7 million followers. Been working out for 35 years, and he didn't start taking steroids till after working out for a very very long time, late into
How
his.
do we know that?
Well, we don't,
Yeah.
right? But that's kind of what he was. That's what in the email he kind of talked about. But the list, for instance, here's what I'm currently taking: IGF-1LR. Been taking this for a year. CJC with IMAP. Been taking this for a year. Ibutamorin, been taking that for 2 months. Omnitrope, which is 6 weeks. Testosterone suppionate, 0.6 cc's per week, a cruise dose. Deca, so if you know what Deca is, it's a really intense, very strong steroid, 0.6 cc's per week. Been taking for 3 weeks, and just started taking Winstrol for 50 milligrams a day for 3 weeks. And talking about his good metabolic fitness, and very insulin sensitive because he works out like a maniac and walks 10 to 12 miles. And he was just asking, help me dial in my PED and growth hormone protocol to maximize my gains. And that was what the email that he sent out was.
Yeah, it's very interesting. First off, I don't believe that he just started. Steroids. It's probably been on for a long, long time, right? And
Mhm.
like, why do you need to feel like you're needing to go on? And even in his narrative, right? Because he has all these supplements, he's eating this liver. Why do you feel the need that you need more hormones? Is it because you want your marketing? You want your physique and your larger than life persona to be out there, right? It seems like through the email he is saying that, right? So it is like a WWE character, and kids
Mm.
will fall for that, right? So um,
And
that's pretty
I was having
disingenuous.
a conversation
Yeah,
with Adrian Vino the other day about this as well.
yeah,
And we were talking about how Hulk Hogan obviously took steroids as well, but he would never say that because his whole message is, say your prayers, eat your vegetables, kids. He knows that kids are watching him. So, in a sense, would it be more responsible to say that you're not on steroids and to live the ancestral tenets and do all this stuff if you are a kid who is obviously idolizing and worshiping this larger than life figure, you want to emulate him. You think of guys like Mark Bell, for example, who was in wrestling. He got into wrestling because of these pro wrestlers, took a bunch of steroids. That's how he got into the heavy powerlifting stuff with West Side. um these larger than life characters are taking larger than life doses of anabolic steroids. And if you have a 15, 14-year-old kid, and even in his public apology that Liver King just issued, he's like, I didn't want the 15-year-old who was looking up to me to start blasting and cruising. You
yeah,
didn't want them to start pinning themselves and taking exogenous hormones when, before they've even maximized and optimized their natural dose in their teens and early 20s. So in a sense, it's like, okay, well, is it responsible, or should you just be upfront and be like, hey, look, at the end of the day, I started taking steroids in my 30s to achieve this level of physique. I still believe in the primal tenets. I still believe that you should live ancestrally. I still think this is the healthiest, maximal way to live. And I'm just taking steroids to take it to the next level. And it's for me, and just be honest about the fact that it's a publicity stunt. Be honest about the fact that it's larger than life. And that's the whole point. It's sensationalist. It's very intense. Now, of course, no one actually wants to be that honest about things.
mhm.
that's the that's the issue.
This is a moral and ethical question, right? And then it's your opinion on it, right?
Mm,
Because um, you can justify pretty much anything you do, and that's how
mm,
he justifies it, right? So his justification is, why would I tell the 15-year-old that I'm on steroids when I don't want them to take it, right? So I see that argument. Although if you're taking that amount and you look like you're on steroids, obviously there's going to be questions, right? So this debate was going to come up anyway, right? And this is a debate that's been had so many places, right? Like um again with the wrestling back in the day,
mm.
it's like is this real? Is this real? It's always the question, right? And then when they came out that it was fake, there was a time when people thought wrestling was real.
Yeah,
Okay, like
of
WWE
course.
wrestling, okay? Or held on to that. I almost again see that there. So it is a moral and ethical question, and there's no right or wrong answer, but in obviousness here, kids are not stupid. People are not stupid. They're gonna see this and be like, he's on steroids. And I think that's where most people were at. Okay. So yeah, that's just
But at the end of
kind
the
of what it is.
day, too, there's still naivete of the younger generations, right? And if you have this guy who's like, "No, I am not on steroids. Absolutely not. I never touched the stuff." And again, he doubled down, he tripled down, and it was the fervent insistence that he had never touched it, which is kind of the moral and ethical issue, right? Where it's like, of course, people like I think like then again, we're talking matters of opinion. The most ethical thing to do would be to be transparent about a steroid use and to educate as much as possible and warn against young if he didn't want younger generations to do it, he would explain and educate people in the dangers of it. But he is not an educational figure. He's a marketing sensationalist figure. He boiled health and lifestyle down to these 9 tenets of primal living, and the whole rest of it was this sensationalist character of this caveman, dragging around a sled with chains and kettlebells around his neck, and that's not that's great for marketing, that's great for social media clout, that's great for, being entertaining and performative and being larger than life, but it's not good for actually teaching people nuanced things about health, fitness, and the way that your body is supposed to, kind of align with nature. And like the core, the essence of his message. This is what a lot of people are saying. It's like, well, the essence of his message is still good. He's still talking about mental health. He's still talking about eating animal-based diets and getting out in the sun and having sun exposure and sleeping good. And these are all things that, yeah, like 100%. These are all things that are good for you.
And
These
what
are
are
all
the nine tenants?
Let's pull them up. I don't want to paraphrase. 9 ancestral tenets. The 9 ancestral tenets are sleep, eat, move, shield, connect, cold, sun, fight, and bond. Um, and those are
Yeah,
the
you
sort
froze
of
up
like
there, so I'll take over.
I froze. Am I frozen?
Screen. Yeah, you just froze. I'm actually gonna share the screen because I'm on his site,
Okay,
and I'll
cool.
pull
I
it
think
up
I froze
here.
because I think I froze because my screen was trying to load the site. It's a Flash website and it takes a
Oh
little
yeah,
while.
yeah, for sure. Let's see if that happens to me. So sleep, obviously sleep well, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, that's been beat over the head. Eat. Let's see what like I'm gonna click on it and see what's what. Um, we evolved eating the whole animal. I mean, that's debatable, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I kind of think that, but it is debatable. And again, nutrition is the most complicated to me. It's the most complex because there's so many opinions out there, right?
Mhm.
Um, Foods we evolved with for over 2 million years, the same food we still expect to eat today to heal and be healthy. Okay, sure. Yeah. I mean, this is, I almost look at this as the most basic. How do I put this? Like, if we're going to appeal to somebody who's already like depressed in a basement, you
Mhm.
know what I mean? This would be easy advice to just go by, right? But then there's the next level of it. This is very simplistic stuff, right? So what does shield mean here? Need to avoid dangers like our early ancestors did by running from lions, seed oils. I mean, this is all pretty good stuff, eh? Like, can you see my screen
Yeah,
right
we
now?
can see your screen. So he's talking about like rather than defend against predators and stuff, we have to defend against environmental, inflammatory and negative environmental factors, things like seed oils, which cause inflammation, excessive Wi-Fi and EMFs, man-made poisons, which you look at a lot of microplastics. So it's basically avoiding environmental disruptors to your system rather than avoiding the predators that we would have had to do in real life. So there's an element, if you think of like primitive man, you're protecting yourself from your environment. Modern man protects himself from his environment in a much more different way.
Yeah. From a marketing standpoint, this is kind of genius, right? It's very simple. It's like anybody can follow this. A 15-year-old could look at this and go, that's what I'm going to do, right? So I guess
Hmm.
that's a net positive in that case. But just looking at him here sitting, it's like how could you not know this guy's on steroids? So this shouldn't be surprising. You don't get veins bulging out like that without uh steroid. You don't look like this. And do you want to look like this? Like, is this healthy? Um is this access for his heart? Can he move? Can he actually move? Or can he just lift heavy weights? Like I've never seen him do anything but drag around sleds and I'm sure he's a powerful guy, but again, this is going too much in the direction of um I want to be like a statue, like the
Right.
The
Well,
Greek god.
well, because he has one of his tenets is move, right? So go to the one that says move real quick,
Where's the move?
and we'll see which one that is. We'll see what he says about moving.
Fight.
I think it's the third one, maybe.
Okay. Move. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a mismatch between our physical activity we experience in the modern world and our ancestral environment. This is almost as big of a mismatch as is diet. That's why the third ancestral tenet is move. So this is really interesting. So Naudi Aguilar has been talking about a lot. Part of his narrative in some of his live streams lately has been how it's very easy for people to adopt the perspective of ancestral living and first principles of evolutionary nutrition. But when it comes to people adopting a perspective of evolutionary biomechanics, they're more reluctant to adopt it. Like they don't accept the hierarchical prioritization of movement as it pertains to how we evolved to move. But people are very, it's easier to sell nutrition when it's like, oh, eat animal based and eat but by the way, you can still lift weights and you can do all these gymnastic things and you can do all this other stuff because that's how we train as humans, right?
Yeah.
There's no respect or adoption to ancestral biomechanics, which is a very interesting thing.
No, there's not, and that's the key to it, right? There is a blueprint in nature, and it's not lifting weights up and down. It's obvious, but it really isn't within the fitness industry. It's interesting what he has here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maintaining a healthy level of movement. Doesn't have weights anywhere here, but whenever you see him on Instagram, it's always like dragging a heavy sled or like ridiculously heavy kettlebells. Like walking with kettlebells is not a natural thing. It's like, and of course the rebuttal is, but don't you want to carry your groceries home? It's like, yeah, that doesn't happen that often, right? Like, you should be able to lift a reasonable amount of weight, of course. Listen to this. The well-being that builds from balanced movement trumps the need for consumption-based satisfaction, such as food, painkillers, alcohol, and drugs. Again, he's going over like it's a lie, right? So we recommend walking first thing in the morning, 30 minutes early afternoon, walking 30 minutes at dinner. It's great, right? But is he doing that? I don't know.
Well,
no, that's not how he's getting.
He's not just doing that.
No, that's not where he's getting his physique, his bravado, and there is a lot of bravado to him, right? Like he is selling the bodybuilder physique, the bodybuilder, power lifter, alpha male, like the classic alpha male vibe. He's selling that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, how alpha would you be without steroids? You know what I mean? Like how alpha, how much could you maintain your what you have going on right now without steroids? You probably won't know, because I doubt he's only been on it for a short period.
Yeah. Can you pull up that website one more time real quick?
Yeah.
Just that last one I want to point out too. This is actually a really interesting one because part of his message is trying to improve people's mental health. And I think the last one of the tenets, if you scroll up, you go to the very last one, is bond, right? And so I think it's really neat that he's talking about the importance of community, the importance of people actually having connections with others, and the importance of social bonds that human beings are naturally geared to have, right? And that kind of purpose, support, care, and attention decided whether people would live or die. That's the reality of ancestral humanity. And I think there's a reality of that in modern times. I was talking to someone about, the challenges of mental health in different communities. And for a lot of cases, disaffected people just don't have a community who are there to support them or there to help them, elevate out of states of depression. So I think it's cool. Again, there's this argument of like, okay, well, this guy lied and he got all this attention, but look at the message he's promoting.
Yeah.
Is it for a greater good? Right. Well, okay. So it doesn't absolve him of the moral culpability of lying to an audience. It does not absolve him of the fact that he doubled down, tripled down, quadrupled down on saying that he's natural when he's not, and he capitalized on it. And again, he stated, and this is actually a good segue into the video that Naudi made, he stated that he did not increase the capital gains in his supplement companies with the increase in his popularity on social media.
Well, that's obviously a lie.
Which, as a marketer, that's impossible. Like, I know how marketing works. I know how social capital works. I know how attention works. And again, if you believe that, you probably believed that he wasn't on steroids in the first place. It's that, it's one of those things that's just as obvious, right? He's still fucking lying.
He swapped one lie for another. Again, he's probably thinking I'm doing the greater good here and capitalizing on it at the same time. Nothing wrong with that. That's probably what he's thinking, right? We're analyzing psychologically now. I don't know 100%, but that's probably the case, right? I actually looked at his apology and I was like, that's pretty good. He probably had some like PR firm go like, this is how you do it. This is the best way to do it. And I saw the comments. I always go to the comments section and look at the overall vibe of the situation. They're like, "We love you, Liver King. Thank you for coming clean," right? And
Was that what the vibe was?
A lot of people were like that. I didn't see a lot of like, "You're full of shit," but like he came out like, "I was wrong. I shouldn't have done this, but I didn't gain monetarily from this. I was already rich." It's just like, yeah, okay. Those are all lies.
So I'm gonna read some YouTube comments here.
Yeah.
The fact that people believed he was Naudi at all is mind-boggling. An apology video with "I'm rich" 30 seconds in is a new one for me. LOL.
Yeah.
The worst part of this lie is the fact that he looked people dead in the eye while lying like it's the most honest truth, and now no matter what he does, he won't be trusted on any topic. And then, man, I've never heard such an avalanche of excuses followed by "I take full responsibility." This is my favorite though. Feeling bad for the people that thought eating an animal's raw balls would make them look like this.
Yeah. It's very true. He did sell that. He's selling eating raw meat and being super alpha. It's just like you're lying. Yeah.
This is a good one too. The new ancestral tenets: 1, be a liar. 2, mislead your audience. 3, double down on lies whenever asked because money is involved. 4, when found out, try to scapegoating using men's mental health. 5, step 4 only necessary if exposed. So,
that there are some did too.
Yeah,
the mental health. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think there are some people saying, "Hey, P.S. I'm a fat, depressed guy," and Liver King's selflessness and doing massive amounts of steroids and lying about it until he couldn't lie about it anymore has in fact saved my life. So again, he's like saying, yeah, okay, there was this negative thing, but I had a positive impact from adopting these things. That guy stuck in the basement, fat and depressed, stuck in the basement, started adopting some of these actual healthy, more aligned to nature things and had a really positive, impact on his life. But so, yeah, it's pretty interesting. Hey, there's a
couple thoughts off the top of my head there. That Levels of Energy book we both read? He's sending energy to the lowest common denominator. And I think that, the person who's stuck in their basement, hasn't seen the sun, plays video games all day, has no motivation. This is something easy to follow. And since he's a larger than life, like WWE type character, maybe you can get that person. But the average person that goes to the gym, who's younger, who's already in decent health, it's like you're probably going to be a net negative on them, right? They can get liver supplements anywhere. So yeah, it's entertainment. And another thing is, who leaked his private health information? It's like, that's not a good thing to do either. You know what I mean? That's a terrible thing to do.
I think the email subject line was even RE confidentiality. So like, I don't know if it was a direct email to Derek from More Plates, More Dates or what the deal was, but he made a big 30-minute long video called Liver King is Exposed. And that's what sort of cascaded this whole thing. There was an email outlining his entire thing. He'd been talking for months about how Liver King is obviously on steroids. There's no way that he's not. And finally, he had some sort of leaked email. Either it was an email to him or from someone else, and whatever happened. Here's another. This is a crazy theory. Liver King might have told people to leak it himself because maybe he wasn't getting enough attention, and maybe the attention had sort of died down a little bit, and he needed people to pay attention to him again, start making memes about him. I bet you that his sales for his liver supplements actually went up during this whole debacle, even though it's a horrible negative PR. There's that whole saying, no press is bad press, even bad press is good press because it's press.
I completely agree, and very astute observation there. I think he will be as popular as ever. Everybody loves a comeback after a little bit of a scuffle, right? I was wrong, blah, blah. He's already doing it. And he will be as popular as ever to the mainstream that he appeals to. He's going to have a lot of haters. He's going to have a lot of lovers. Um, Another thing is, there's another subsection that we haven't talked about, and those are the actual lifters, bodybuilders, power lifters who also do steroids and who know he's on steroids. It's like, bro, I look exactly like you. It's like I'm doing the same cycles as you, and I can probably tell what steroids you're on, right? So that brings up another point that powerlifting, bodybuilding, Olympic lifting, most sports are riddled with steroids, like CrossFit, everything is like, and now there's a push. I'm going to say a generalized push, almost like more plates, more dates type, where TRT is the thing to do when you're older. Oh, you just need to have a little bit of a boost, and it's healthy for you to do. I think there's a push for that, and a lot of older people, a lot of older men are going to get into. I don't know if this is beneficial or not. I don't think it is, because I think people should be natural as possible.
Yeah.
However, most people are not to begin with. Most people are living not so great of a lifestyle. If you go out, you party once a week, you eat like shit, would it be beneficial for somebody who's, let's say, 60 years old to take those TRTs? Someone, I think, like more plates, more dates would say yes, absolutely. You will look bigger, badder, stronger, and
have more motivation, have more drive,
there you go.
have the whole 9 yards, right? You'll have your zest for life back. But I think the main issue that people aren't talking about is how they got to the place of super low T in the first place, which is living that unnatural life, living out of harmony with your natural biorhythms. And the fact that you have to take TRT, it means that you have misbehaved to a degree that is impeding your natural. And then now, of course, with aging, is like a natural thing, right? So we could pharmacologically intervene in a natural aging process and slow down the natural demotivation. Is that a good thing, though, necessarily? Is that an appropriate thing for human beings to do, to pharmacologically intervene with a natural aging process and a natural process of human transformation over time? Maybe.
This is again an ethical, moral question, physical question. I gotta come clean. I did steroids when I was younger for about 4 years. And I'm talking in my early 20s to mid 20s, testosterone, trenbolone, anavar, and I regret it. Now, the experience made me see exactly. First off, when you're experienced with it, you can look at someone and be like, "Yep, they're that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy," right? And it's a lot of people. If you're in the gym for a long time, you're thinking about it in the least. And every big guy you see at the gym, like 99% of them are, if not 100, are doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah. So and sports too, and sports like CrossFit riddled with it.
This is Juicy Will. For those who are watching on YouTube.
I was taking trenbolone sandwiches at this point. Look at how crushed my lower back is here. I had everything going on in terms of the bodybuilder athletic physique.
The size of your fucking erectors, man. Jeez.
So like, I mean, here I live by a beach. I'm walking around the beach all day. I'm jacked. I'm going to the clubs. I'm like, it's the lifestyle you live when you're 20. But do I regret it? Absolutely. It took me a good 3 to 5 years. I'm going to say 5 years to feel normal again. And I had to make a decision in my mid to late 20s to get off. And it took that long to feel normal again, to where I had normal testosterone. I had a lot of side effects, and I didn't take huge doses like a lot of people I know. Right. So it's like, it affects some people more than others, just like any other drug. And I would advise not doing it, especially when you're older. But like, did I feel amazing while I was on it? Did I feel invincible? Absolutely. It works. It works really well. And there's an upside and a downside, and the downside is massive, and it's long term. And the thing is, once you're in your 30s and 40s and you start doing it, especially unsupervised, you're probably going to have to be on it for life, or you're going to have some issues when you get off. Okay. And that's what, I was younger when I got off, and I haven't done it since, and I won't touch it. And I moved into a more natural lifestyle. and I should say very natural compared to the average person who even says they're doing like Liver King. When I look at them, I'm like, you're not primal. They're like,
No.
you do nothing primal. I'm like 10x as primal as you right now. And you're just selling it, right? And it's funny, all these barefoot guys like squat you. It's just like, oh, just wear these wide toe shoebox and your feet will be so strong. It's just like I walk mountains barefoot,
Mhm.
and it hardly like it takes like years to get your feet strong to the
Mhm.
point. And I look at his feet and I'm like, I could crush them with my hand like this. Literally, I could, right? And he's just like, well, put them in my wide toed shoebox and you'll be just
Yeah.
fine, right?
I
Like,
know. So I don't know if you started having this issue with shoes because you have to wear shoes in society. But even wide toe box shoes, like I bought a pair of Field Grounds because Field Grounds have this a winter boot. So I'm like, oh cool, like this will be good. Like, I can't just wear my my wide toe shoe mesh, like my feet will freeze. I'll get frostbite if I just walk around in these. I'll buy these wide toe boots. My feet are still stuffed in them like a can of sardines. Like these are like really wide toe box boots, like triple E, and like from all the barefoot training, all the barefoot work that I've done, my toe splay is so intense now that it's like I need clown shoes or something to actually
yeah,
have shoes that properly fit and support my feet. The closest that I've had so far is a brand called Barefoot, like BEAR foot. But even those, my toes still get squished in the corners of them. And if you are walking barefoot frequently, you do barefoot, especially on the terrain that you and I are doing it on gravel, on rocks, where your foot has to splay and soften and adapt to some of these uneven surfaces and these harder surfaces. Your foot splays out a lot, like a lot. I have these weird looking hobbit feet now,
yeah,
but
you're in the 1 percentile. I've seen those things. They're mine are wide and yours are like 25% wider. So yeah, you got some outlier feet there. But and I guess maybe squat U's right in the fact that like once they've widened out, then you do really feel the short, narrow toe box, right? Like you
mm,
really do feel that. To me now it's just like, yeah, I'll put them like I hardly ever wear shoes. I only do it to go to work. I wear wide toe shoes at work and basically to walk around town. Other than that, I'm barefoot. So
yeah,
um, I'll sacrifice. I don't even care. I'll put them in small, narrow shoes, do my thing, and then get barefoot again.
yeah. Well, because you ski as well, right? And that
I do. It's
the
crush
reality of that, it does. It's like Chinese
crushes.
foot binding for us
Oh,
at this
it's
point.
it,
So
it. And I wear race boots, which are like, I mean, you don't have a millimeter. There's no bigger like it's like breaking your leg
mm,
sometimes when you're in a ski boot and you can't take the pressure off and you're going down the hill, your legs getting on. It's bad, right? And especially like um, when you're at an advanced level and you're going real fast, you need them super tight. So yeah, it does ruin your feet quite a
well,
bit.
and but you do need them at that level because if you're
Yeah,
for the demand of the sport, like you have to have that level of sensitivity to pressure so that you don't kill yourself when you're going down a hill at like, I mean, what's the top speed you hit last season?
last season, I'm not sure, like in the 130s,
Yeah,
150s, fastest on
kilometers per
GPS.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I've gone faster for sure, but it's
Mhm.
not so much about speed. It's like I mean, dropping like I like tree skiing. There's cliffs within the trees. So you're dropping a cliff, going around a tree. Like there's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so you need good boots. You need basically they're not made for wide toe shoes, and there's a lot of undoing what you've done, damage you've done, basically.
Mhm.
Let's
Mhm.
go on to the what
Yeah,
Naudi
let's
said
play
here.
this. So I got a version of this saved to my phone so we can play it and pause it. We'll kind of go point by point and we'll sort of react live. I'm gonna play it next to my microphone so we can hear it.
So the Liver King did the right thing and revealed that he was on steroids all along. Sure, he got busted by somebody else. And the right thing would have been to
Yeah.
do to say that. I guess there's no right thing to do. If you're on steroids, you're doing the wrong things, and whatever you're doing is clearly not fucking working.
So that was kind of like one of the points I was alluding to earlier, where it's like if you have to take TRT, you are basically you got to that point because of misbehavior, because of a misaligned lifestyle, because of an unnatural lifestyle, right? And so that was one of the things where it's like even in his public apology, he was talking about like I felt like no matter what I was doing, I didn't feel like I was good. I had this low energy, so I took these exogenous hormones and I felt better.
Yeah, it's like what let's analyze why you didn't feel that way. You know what I mean? Is he actually analyzing why he didn't feel proper? Why didn't have the right hormone profile? And that's another thing. Like, why is everyone so obsessed with having their hormones read, their blood work? They're like, it's like, hook me up to this machine and tell me what's wrong with me. It's just like, get back to nature. You know what I mean? Like, another thing is he did get caught. It's like getting caught cheating on your partner or something like that, right? And he's just like,
I
you
cheated
wouldn't
because
have
I love you so much.
you wouldn't have apologized if you didn't get caught. You would have kept doing it, right?
Yeah.
So you did apologize because you got caught, and you didn't address that, or he didn't address that, right? So
yeah.
Anyway, he talks about how there's a multitude of things that he talked about in this recent video. One of them was him saying that he was rich and anonymous before, that he was already making great money, and that this Liver King branding thing that he didn't improve his wealth in any way, shape, or form. So I want to issue a challenge to Liver King in relation to this specific thing. Liver King, I want to see P&L statements. I want to see profit and loss statements over the last 5 years. Let's look at the statistics. Considering what you've been doing in recent times, we should be able to all see how much money you actually have made and what kind of gains you've made business-wise from taking on these little stints that you have over the last year and a half. After we find out that you've made a fuck ton of money off of what you off of the branding that you've culminated for yourself, what I would suggest is all the profits you made over the last year, or all the excess profits that you made, that you donated to a charity. You put your money where your mouth is. My suspicion is that you were just scamming people all along. It was obvious. Everybody else has seen it. I think this happens way more often in this industry.
no lies detected.
No lies detected. I mean, go ahead.
Sorry. Except that maybe Liver King obviously wouldn't say that he's scamming anybody because of what we mentioned before, like justifying it to yourself.
Yeah,
that's up in the air. But I mean, yeah, you're selling your supplements with a lie. That's basically it, right? And BS, you are making way more money. I would love to see those profits and loss statements as well.
Yeah, it's a good challenge. I hope he. Well, I mean, he won't, because his PR firm won't allow him to reveal that information. Because, like you said, he traded one lie for another. Now his new lie is that, well, my lie never actually hurt anyone. My lie didn't actually financially benefit me. You know, it's like, oh, I was caught, but like, oh, it wasn't actually a thing. Like, I didn't actually benefit from it. It's like, dude, you're like, when you've got caught digging yourself into a hole, don't keep digging. Kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Keep playing. Let's hear what he said.
Many reasons to believe that. I explained it to you guys, but here's a situation where it's like low-hanging fruit that you guys can actually fucking see. I understand that some of you guys glasses in order to see the fruit that's at the top of the tree sometimes. This happens all the time in the field of rehabilitation, especially people who deal with pain management, people who deal with functional training, people who deal with any forms of performance or athletic training. It's the same scam artistry and fraudulence that exists in the industry. People who cite studies, this kind of shit exists everywhere. This is just a fucking low-hanging fruit that anybody can see. At some stage, Liver King, then to actually go deeper into this after the challenge that I put forth, at some stage, Liver King states that his testosterone was running low, even though he was following all his ancestral protocols. His T levels were low, and that he couldn't keep his testosterone levels high. And then he says, you know what? Go into a pharmacologist, and so long as that it's okay to do that. Apparently, it's a part of an ancestral diet. It's a part of an ancestral lifestyle, right? So you follow all the 9 ancestral tenets that connect us right to nature, some of which I agree with, but you were trying to sell it as if you were getting to these places without steroids when you were. Those 9 ancestral tenets are not going to get you the fucking results that he was looking for. Obviously, everybody understands that now. It was absolutely ridiculous, and you have to be extremely naive to assume that those 9 ancestral tenets are actually going to get you somewhere, or that some stupid liver supplements. I mean, they're not stupid liver supplements. You know what I'm actually going to do? My plan in the near future is actually to make my own liver supplements. And since I'm going to be making money doing other inventions, I'm actually going to undercut everybody on the costs of those liver supplements and those organ supplements, so that way these guys can't make any fucking money off of it.
So I think one of the things that I don't want people to gloss over is the fact that this happens a lot in the fitness industry already. And not just within, people who are using their physiques necessarily to dupe people and to promote, their own authority using a physique that is maybe dishonestly culminated. But there's also a factor of, like he said, he alluded to the rehabilitation, and I'd like you to comment on that a little bit more than I have. What are the ways that you see, therapists are duping people or being dishonest in a way? He said people are citing studies disingenuously. What are ways that you're seeing people are being duped in maybe the rehab sphere?
There's so
as a
many ways.
chiropractor?
So many ways. I mean, where do we start? My T4 is out. My their last, let's say, therapist, I'm not going to say what type, would be like, your vertebrae is out here. It's like, what the hell does that mean? When someone comes to me and they're convinced now because they're the last therapist that something is wrong with them. It's like, no, nothing is wrong with you. Most people have nothing wrong with them, right? They can definitely get better, right? And that's usually done with exercise over a long term, not exercise, like very specific, what we talk about basically in the whole podcast, right? But a lot of therapists sell that there's something wrong with you, and that does give a nocebo effect. Like, a lot of these nocebo guys are correct about that your hip is hiked, your hip is out, you're shifted, you're this, you're that, right? And people want the quick fix. They're like, can't you just pop my hip back in? It's just like, oh man, again, like, this is over and over and over and over again. There's also overselling of certain ultrasound doesn't work, guys. Come on. There's external band rotations. Minimal effect. Like, a lot of what we learned in school was based off of, let's say, weak research, or people can look for the research they want to see and then cite that study because there's a study for anything. Mm-hmm. And most of the public does not know this. Also, spending 5 minutes with somebody in a therapist office, telling him you're going to give a quick fix because that's your business model. You're not looking at the person, you're looking at the business model and fitting the person within your business model, then feeding them a bunch of crap. It's like, that happens all over the place. Have to deal with it all the time. I can see where Naudi's coming from, because when you're honest about this stuff and you actually want to work with somebody and you have to deal with these narratives, it's just like, what do you do with this? Yeah, it is kind of frustrating, and I see where he's coming from. And maybe we don't do the exact same things. Like, if I have a human being in front of me and I want to make them healthier, maybe I wouldn't do the exact same thing as Naudi, but I think we have the same intentions, and I see his frustrations, right? And even along the lines of the scientific people, it's just like, you're cherry picking what you want from your previously, you're basically confirming your bias, right? Yeah. Which is, he's going to get in the squat you, and we can talk more about that after. What about you? What do you see here?
Well, so I'm not directly involved in the rehab game, right? And so, I just tend to really try to ignore, for the most part, fields that I'm not directly involved in. I know that chiropractics and physiotherapy, kinesiology in general, those fields of study are relevant for the topics that we talk about, but I research them contextually to the discussions that we have, right? And so I'm not as familiar, for example, I don't have someone coming in to me. Even when I was a personal trainer, I didn't have people coming in and be like, oh, well, my chiropractor told me that I have a vertebrae out of place and that's why I can't squat, for example. I didn't have that as much. I had people come in and tell me that they had pain in a certain place, and so I would try to address it, intuitively, in the way that I kind of knew from the perspectives that I had as a personal trainer. But what I am hearing from you is that, like, the frustration kind of comes from having to deal with people who are fed a narrative which appeals to their sense of wanting a quick fix, when really reality is more complex. Reality is more it's more effective, and it's more realistic, and it's more responsible to try and teach people, a method of healing which is closer tied to reality and truth. Yeah. But it's less marketable, right? Exactly. If you don't know how to market, it's not even that it's less marketable. It's just that it's more difficult to market. It's more difficult to convince a person that they need to actually think for themselves and invest time in, relating to reality in a more profound way. And that is a frustration, that, like, every time I hear Naudi speak, I hear that level of frustration where it's like, these motherfuckers don't want to just look at the truth. They just want to be told what they want to be told. They just want to believe what they want to believe. And they want to have this cognitive dissonance, living this like comfortable, dissociative life, disconnected from reality. And they don't want to, surrender. They don't want to submit to natural law. Like there's all kinds of frustrations that he has with this because obviously the methods that he promotes and propagates works. You can see all the results that his clients get. He's thought about it and studied it a lot. He has a good relationship to reality. And when he's trying to help people, the big barrier is not necessarily his methods, it's people's mental resistance to his methods.
It's a very good point. And another thing, just before you play it, is he was talking about undercutting Liver King. It's like, man, there's a lot of supplements out there, a lot of liver supplements. It is about marketing. Liver King does have eyes on him and will have more eyes on him. So you can undercut him in price, but he's got the eyes on him. And that's just the reality of where we're at. And I think he is correct. Like you mentioned, having to think for yourself. That's the real problem with me. Like, what I think in society in general, we want to vote somebody like Trump's going to save me or like Biden's going to save me. It's like, no, you thinking for yourself is going to save you. Okay. Like, and that takes effort, energy, time, a lifestyle change, a thought process change. I don't think society's there right now. And I see this frustration with Naudi and I share it. Right. So
same. And that's why we're playing this specifically. We're doing live reactions to this. So let's keep going. So he's going to undercut the Liver King and all these other people with price wise once he starts doing stuff.
John Vanderbilt all over again in terms of how I run business. This is how it's going to work. So with that in mind, for you supplement peddlers out there, you're going to get undercut in many ways. And unfortunately, I have the infrastructure to pull this off. I think what you guys in general do is bullshit. I think Liver King is going to be the guy that gets demonized when it's all said and done, but you guys are all suffering from the exact same bullshit. You don't know how to train. You don't know, and you're dealing with an endorphin addiction, and you don't know how to deal with that endorphin addiction, and you don't want to tell anybody about it.
Okay, so the endorphin addiction thing is kind of interesting, right? Because again, in Liver King's public apology, he talks about how he's also an insecure person, and the way that he would feel good is doing these 2 blood boiling workouts every day, so that I felt like I was enough. Right. And so it's like you're talking about your T levels being low. Maybe he was literally just overtraining. Maybe his obsession and addiction to endorphins, like he's saying, you have an endorphin addiction. You're not telling anyone about your endorphin addiction to sustain your endorphin addiction of working out as much as you are, which is not, like primally informed. It's not informed by ancestral behavior. Our ancestors didn't work out that hard. Our ancestors moved a lot and worked a lot and traveled a lot and were nomadic and were in resting squats and we threw spears and we carried animals back to our camps and we did all this stuff. We didn't train like fucking maniacs. We didn't do barbarian workouts with heavy sleds and kettlebells by our hands, and we didn't do any of that stuff. And so your testosterone's tanking maybe because you're fucking overtraining, and liver and testicles is not enough to help you recover from your fucking training, bro.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any training. If you're training that hard, if you're pushing yourself that hard, there's an issue. You're in danger. You know what I mean? Like you'd be dancing around to have fun at the campfire with your boys after and your family, after you and your community, after you caught something, after you went hunting. There'd be a celebration. If you're working out that hard, you're in trouble. Okay? So, yeah, you are putting out those negative hormones or whatever you want to call it, negative energy. You're sucking the life out of yourself by going that hard that many times, and you do need those exogenous substances to keep yourself going. And hey, I get a ripped body while I'm at it. So yeah, I'm doing the right thing. Look at me. Look at how big my body is. And you'll see this from a lot of like powerlifter guys who are like, I'm bigger than you. Shut up.
Yeah.
Like, literally that's
what's your source? My source is that I'm bigger than you.
Yeah. It's all false. It's all a lie. Anyway, let's keep
going.
Guys are addicts just like anybody else, and what keeps the endorphin addiction going is taking more testosterone, taking steroids, getting on these fucking peptides. You're addicts to exercise, just like there's heroin addicts out there who are addicted to whatever heroin does to people's hormones, just like there's people who are alcoholics and it does things, I believe, to their dopamine and serotonin. It's like people who are addicted to smoking marijuana. You can be addicted to endorphins. This industry is completely overrun by a bunch of fucking loser endorphin addicts who don't want to get their fucking act together. I've been dealing with this for so many damn years. I've been ridiculed by these endorphin addicts who are also on every steroid in the fucking book. And and never mind this, guys. From my vantage point, if you don't lie about taking steroids, you say you're not that much further beyond where Liver King is at. If you're on steroids, you're fucking cheating, and you shouldn't be giving anybody any fucking advice on how a regular person who's not on steroids should approach their health.
Do you agree with that?
Who are you cheating? That's again a moral question, right? Like I said this to myself when I was doing it. I'm like, who am I cheating? Like this is my life, right? Like leave me alone. I can do what I want. You know what I mean? So there is a little bit to that. I think anybody could do whatever you want to do, right? There's going to be consequences to what you're doing. It doesn't matter, right? And if you're promoting it to somebody else, that's different, right?
The thing that I want to know if you agree with, though, is if you're doing steroids, should you not give advice to other people about how you should approach your health?
If you're not telling them that's like, if you're like giving them advice on how to get jacked, but you're on steroids, and yeah, probably come clean about that. But if you're giving them advice on like, let's say you're actually mentally together and you see somebody struggling, I can be like, even if I was on steroids, I'd be like, yeah, you got to get in the sun. You know what I mean? Get out of the basement. There's there's levels to this, right? So
yeah, exactly.
On one level, I'm very individual in that case. Like I'm like, as long as you do, like you can do whatever you want. Like right now, and again, there's levels to this, right? What I mean is, on one level, I say there's consequences to heavy squatting, let's say, right? One of those consequences is you'll probably get big muscles. So that's a positive consequence. One of the negatives, a lot of compression. You're not going to be as athletic. You could get hurt. There's pros and cons, right? So it actually comes down to that nuance. You have to be nuanced with everything, right? So it's not that cut and dry to just say if you're on steroids that you can't give anybody advice on anything.
Yeah, right? I think no, I don't. I agree. I'm a big fan of nuance. I also think the most relevant advice that you could give would be, assuming you actually know what you're talking about, is how to actually utilize steroids and maybe mitigate the negative consequences of steroids. The same way that a person who does heavy squats will give advice on how to mitigate the potential injuries and the mobility issues associated with doing heavy squats by giving advice on mobility drills and foam rolling and stuff. It's like it's advice relevant to the sport, but also be forthcoming about the negative consequences and be forthcoming about the fact that, like if you're natural, you can't follow my advice to the same degree because I am exogenously enhanced and I will have greater recovery capacities, greater strength capacities, greater nervous system capacities than you will ever have as a natural athlete.
Very good point. Very, very good point. And the thing is, I still give advice on how to squat. Like, as people come into me, they're like at the CrossFit next door, and they're like, I love squatting. I'm like, well, here are the consequences to it. But if you want me to show you the better way to do it, yeah, I'll show you that, right? Like,
exactly.
Fine. We'll show you how to get rid of pain, but I'm telling you, it's probably not a great idea to do long term. Here's a better thing to do instead. But if you really want to do it, then I can't stop you from, and nor do I want to stop you from doing it. If it's bringing you joy at this point in your life, then I'm going to show you a better way to do it.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to turn someone away at your chiropractic clinic because they're insisting that they want to do back squats, right? You're trying to mitigate damage. All right, let's keep going.
Try to put in a little bit of
you just kind of like plant a seed, of course. You'd be like, hey, like at the end of the day, if you keep doing this, you're gonna keep my paycheck going, basically. Yeah, totally. But all right, let's keep this rolling.
Whether that's a young person, old person, you have no grounds to be giving anybody fucking advice if you can't figure this out without having to contact a freaking doctor to alter your hormones exogenously. The amount of slop that exists in this industry is absolutely amazing. I won't keep this video up forever, guys. I just figured I would put it out there. Just to point at the obvious, this doesn't just start and end with Liver King. This is a fucking pandemic in the industry of fitness, in the industry of rehabilitation, even in the industry of quote-unquote motivation. It's the same fucking bullshit. You're dealing with people who are either trust fund babies who make it in this shit, who are dealing with external subsidies, or you're usually dealing with people who are fucking who are dealing with biological subsidies by utilizing fucking steroids. That's how this shit works. I didn't come from either of those points, from either of those places, and that's fundamentally why none of these people have really ever wanted to reach out to me until it came recent times where we started actually making a mark in terms of our profitability, in terms of our reach. It's not until recent times that I've had people actually reaching out, and it's fundamentally why I've actually closed the door on anybody actually getting in contact with me, because I know how these fuckers operate, and ultimately they wanted to act stupid all these years, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to take the high road, and I'm going to watch these fuckers drown themselves, and that's exactly what has happened. It will continue to fucking happen, and then hopefully within time, you guys can get your fucking heads out of your ass and pay attention to what I'm saying and figure your own fucking, learn how to think critically, so then you guys can see everybody else who's doing similar shit to this. It's happening everywhere, guys. Liver King is not the only fucking dude that's doing this. His is just the most obvious. It was like the most grotesque example of this fucking con artistry and bullshit that happens in this industry. To give you guys an example, like the Squat University guy, he knows Olympic lifting is bullshit. He knows squatting does not come as a priority when it comes to training. He understands this fully. This dude understands this shit fully. He understands that there's a paleobiological blueprint that you need to account for. We walk first, we run second, probably, and then we would throw third. That's essentially the order of how we would aim to orient our mechanics as human beings.
Do you think that Aaron from Squat University really believes that? I think he, in like a big part of him, really does believe that, like, maybe he's sort of like, yeah, okay, like evolutionary biomechanics is a thing, but also look at, like, we can squat for our entire lives. Look at the old men who are doing 300-pound deadlifts.
He completely buys into what he's doing, and there's no reason to go otherwise, because he's profiting off of it. It's not so much profit. He's living in that world. He Olympic lifted, and it's just like the default is, and still is, that Olympic lifting will make you good at everything. Basically, like, start because you snatch hard, you're 40 times going to go down. You're going to be more powerful, more explosive, mobility, stability. All it gets you everything, right? So he still has that. And guess what's the most primal thing is squatting. To him, it's just like, the average thought of, I have to squat every time I go on the toilet, so squatting is good. It's just like, actually, that's not even how you would take a dump in normal, like, if you were primal, you'd be full squat, right? So squatting itself is a specialty, obviously, but you can sell it to yourself, as I did for the longest time, that it is the most primal movement, that you are doing the right thing, because most people are squatting anyway. So it's like, why not show them the best way to squat, which is what I said before. And he's let's say again with the shoes, right? It's just like, what? Well, if you're going to squat anyway, why not squat in this wide toe shoe? But then he goes on to give BS reasons why his shoe is going to make you into this like primal king. You know what I mean? Like he bullshits too. And he brings it to the level where he doesn't admit. You got to admit that there's a blueprint and a priority. That's what Naudi's getting at, and that's what these guys don't want to admit. And I'll even go further than Naudi to say that there is a spiral mechanic that nobody wants to admit. And even like PRI, who admits it, you watch their exercises and it's all table tests and stability. And it's just like, where does that show up in actual movement? But anyway, I digress. That I think Aaron Hershog really believes in what he's doing and doesn't want to. People are very intelligent. People figure things out. You don't want to look into it. You don't want that narrative. You know what I mean? So you can easily ignore it. Ignore ants. You can ignore the fact that there's a primal blueprint and just keep doing what you're doing because it's profitable, and you can justify it to yourself, just like Liver King did with his steroid use, right? So you're helping a lot of people. You are justified by looking at a Kelly Starrett or a Stu McGill. The biggest guys in the industry are behind you, and you're copying their exercises. You're taking a lot from them. So how could I be wrong?
Yeah. 2.4 million followers. You want to keep that narrative going, because again, there's this incentive to not jar your audience too much as well. Like, it's not even just from a financial perspective. The more that I'm getting into marketing dynamics and understanding how different people equate to your message. It's like I've been making videos for the last little while. I gained about like 12,000 followers off of a couple of viral videos. And it's really interesting because when I start talking with a little bit of depth and nuance and things that are kind of more interesting to me and that are less entertaining, they get way less views. If I spike a hard emotion and I create this polarizing idea and break down into nuance later, of course, but like, again, like aggravate people with a firm, strong opinion, then people are just like, oh yeah, engagement, views. But they get kind of upset at me when I start to divert from a narrative that they start to expect from me. And this is like, for some people, they're like, oh, well, I don't want the people who are paying attention to me and giving me this social validation, giving me this financial validation to not approve of the message that I'm putting out. So I better stick to the narrative. I better stick to the script so that I don't lose my clout. I don't lose my social currency. And by the way, Instagram social currency is a thing. Like even on a small scale, this is something that I've noticed. I jumped up by like 15,000 followers in 2 weeks. People who have met me for the first time and add me to Instagram later, they treat me different because they're like, oh, he's doing something. He's got some attention. He's got some clout. People literally assume some different thing about your character strictly based on the level of social currency that you have, right? And I couldn't even imagine if it was like someone has, like Aaron has 2.4 million followers, 2.4 million people engaging with his content and validating him and expecting him to, sort of toe the line of a brand and a narrative that he's been going on. It would be impossible for him to divert from that. So even if he does, like Naudi claims, understand the first principles of evolutionary biomechanics of walking, running, throwing, he's not going to divert away from the 2.4 million people who are, providing his livelihood and creating a narrative about who he is and what he stands for.
It's a very good point. The mainstream right now, there's a reason mainstream's mainstream. Okay. There's a reason mainstream shows, like there's a reason the Kardashians are the most popular. They have the most followers, right? The people who it's about flash, it's about brands, it's about very simple entertainment. That's where the mainstream is at. Now, I'm not saying Aaron Hershog's a little bit above mainstream. Okay. He's given better information. So there's a net positive there, I guess. Right. And Naudi's like up here. Right. Trust me, I don't agree with everything Naudi says. And I don't think I have to. Right.
No.
There's a lot I would disagree with Naudi and love to debate him on, but he's definitely thinking at a way higher level than Aaron Hershog. Right. Like way past that level. Right. Whether you agree with him or not. But the higher you go, the less people you're going to have watching you, and the more nuance you have, I guess people who do go to you will gravitate towards you, right? So he's building a loyal tribe, where I think Aaron, like, there's a lot of people doing similar things to what Aaron Hershog's doing, right? So he will sell a lot, but I could go to Kelly Starrett and he's saying the same thing. I go to Stu McGill, he's saying the exact same thing. I can't go to many people saying something similar to Naudi. There's going to be a handful, if that, right? Yeah. So
and most of them are going to be like FP certified coaches.
Yeah, well, yeah, there you go, right? Like, so that's the case.
Yeah. All right, let's keep this going. There's only a couple minutes left here.
Yet this guy is focusing on having everybody squat. Why? So then he can sell you some squatting or deadlifting shoes, or sell you a bunch of bullshit products that orient to that. And since you, the consumer, don't know better, you're going to fucking fall for it hook, line, and sinker. And it is what it is. I've told people this shit for years, and you guys don't pay attention. Some of you do, and you can become saved from this nonsense. But for those that still want to keep their fucking head up their ass, I guess you can just keep fucking head up your ass and keep listening to these fucking people that know they're doing the wrong thing and they're peddling. They know they're doing the wrong thing, and they're peddling products that will fuck people up even more for the sake of them making profit. That's how this world works. And at the end of the day, I don't blame these dudes. I don't blame Liver King. I don't blame the Squat University guy or people like Brett Contreras or whatever. I don't blame these cats. They are victims of culture. They are victims of capitalism. And capitalism pressures you to make decisions like this or not fucking thrive in this society.
Well, that one's interesting.
Victims of capitalism, victims of society, right? Do you think they're victims? Do you think, because here's the thing, there was a point in my life where I was not cognizant of these ideas, right? And I was the power lifter, I was the CrossFit guy. You were too. You owned a CrossFit gym. We were really bought into this stuff because we assumed it was truth. And so that was not a conscious decision to capitalize on things that could have drawbacks that we weren't cognizant of, right? That was not a conscious choice. So in a way, we were quote victims. I don't think it's necessarily a victimization thing. I think it's just unconscious incompetence.
It's not the right word for it, but here's the thing, like it would have been more profitable for me to believe in CrossFit a little bit more, because I was
Right.
I owned the gym, right? I had to give it up because I like in my soul I couldn't keep going. I'm like, I don't believe in this anymore, right? So it's like I lost the tribe, I lost the, I'm out of this gym game, right? And that's where I socially networked. That's where I networked for patients. It's like I lost a lot of monetary wealth for going with my moral compass, right? Where I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. That it's just not going to happen. Are you a victim? A little bit. You're a victim of society. Like coming up in school, I learned all these things and I believe them to be the best information. And that's what everybody coming up in school believes, whether you're in university or you're in grad school. And is it the best information?
Well, even elementary school and high school.
You're not even supposed to question it.
No, exactly.
Right? So there's a very, I should say the mainstream is very hard in one direction, and it's been put in a box. And especially with like, you have to believe in what the news says. Basically what the news, like the amalgamation of what the BS news says is the narrative now for any story that's out there right now. And if you go outside of that, you're in trouble. And you're not in trouble, like no one's going to come and get you. Maybe if you say something extreme enough, they will, but nobody's going to come get you, but you're going to be socially shunned. People just won't listen to you. The algorithm's going to put you down a step. So there's more incentive to have your mind in a small box, and subconsciously, you know this. So there's all those factors, right? Not only subconscious incompetence. Not only do you not know what you don't know, but you know not to get out of the blind, or you lose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see that. That's fair. Let's keep this going.
Society from a financial standpoint. That's just that's how our economic system works, and that's the part that people really don't want to fucking hear about. But I'll tell you what anyway. Anyway, to reiterate my challenge to Liver King, fuck up the profit and loss statements. Don't make these fucking bold claims and not fucking show evidence for it. And keep this in mind, guys. I'm also for profit, but I'm for earning my fucking profit. I've made my money the most honest way that I possibly can. It's the most honest way that a person could possibly do it. And it's a pain in the ass. When you want to do this shit the right way, the top down, bottom up, whatever you want to call it, it's so much work. It's so much work to do this shit the right way, and that's how I'm doing it. And that's why all these people, all these guys that are at the higher ends or whatever, the Joe Rogans of the world, that's why they don't fucking like me, because I do this shit the right way. I do this. I go the whole 9 yards to ensure that people get good quality service, good quality products, good quality everything. That's how I've done it. And long term, this is why we're going to win in the end. So yeah, Liver King, buck up with the profit and loss statements after you showcase what your growth was over the last year and a half, pulling this little stint that you have. What you need to do then after that is take all that profit and then put it into a charity. Otherwise, you are still a complete and utter piece of shit.
Boom. Yeah. Mic fucking drop, bro.
I want to reiterate that I think that I'm not against capitalism. I'm against. I'm against. I shouldn't even say I'm against. I'm for a informed consumer, and that's on the consumer end too, right? But there is a lot of BS in the way. Do you know what I mean? Like what I mentioned before, the mainstream thought process, like what we're saying and what Naudi's saying isn't taught in schools. So you come up automatically thinking the opposite. Now, as an informed consumer, you think you're informed because you are going through the mainstream process. But are you informed? Really? Okay, because like I don't see ancestral tenets being taught or a nature blueprint being taught anywhere in schools. Do you know what I mean? You got to get that. You got to get the programming out of your head and then get new programming into your head. So is that capitalism? I don't think so. That's product of the system. So in one case, you are like a little bit of a victim. I hate using the word victim of the system, but it's just the way people are brought up. And you do have to think for yourself and be intelligent. Like, actually use your mind, use your own mind, your intuition, read, learn things. Don't just be an entertainment whore, you know, like, don't just absorb.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, there are a few things that if they were taught in school, they would increase the capacity of critical free thinking tremendously. For example, if you were taught at an early age about cognitive biases, and you learned about things like cognitive dissonance, you learned about the confirmation bias, you learned about all of these things, and it was hammered into your head to be aware of these things in yourself, we would have a different society, right? Of course, these things are not taught to you. It's kind of up to a free market capitalist society to provide that value in a marketable way to a degree.
We're not in a free market capitalist society. It's very centrally planned. It's very, very controlled. And things that aren't taught in school: how to balance a checkbook, how to do your taxes, how to cognitive biases, philosophy of science, philosophy in general. Very, very important things. How to take care of your own body from a young age properly. Not taught in school. These are the most important things. How to have relationships with people, how to communicate. None of this stuff that's actually important is actually taught. It's going through a process. And I shouldn't say none of the things. There's some. It really depends on the individual teacher too. Some teachers were really impressionable on me and had a good impact, but I think the actual education process was terrible. Like, for the most part, Cairo was pretty good. They went pretty hard, but elementary school, high school, university, in terms of curriculum, terrible. 4 out of 10. I had to unlearn a lot of things that were complete BS. And had I kept going, I would have been in watching entertainment right now, watching TV, thinking I'm doing the right thing, watching sports ball, even though I like the clips, I'm kind of in the game, so I shouldn't shit on it completely. But the average entertainment lifestyle, go to a restaurant, be entertained, watch movies, watch TV, talk about the TV, talk about the movie, talk about what's popular, given to you, handed to you by whatever is the narrative of the day. That is what the average person is doing, because that is just what you're taught to do.
Yeah. At the end of the day. So I think what I'd love to do for a follow-up is kind of talk about what is the alternative to the normal lifestyle. What are the things that we would want to learn about, having a more productive society? What are the lifestyle factors that, rather than watching TV and talking about the TV shows, maybe that can be our next episode. We can kind of talk about, what would our ancestral tenets or our tenets for a good life kind of look like? I think that would be a cool follow-up, since, rather than just criticizing, I always love offering alternative perspectives and solutions based on our experience. So let's do that on our next episode. This was pretty in-depth. I really enjoyed this episode, guys. If you have your own comments, you have your own perspectives, if you agreed or disagreed with us, please leave it in the comments. Let us know. You can follow me at anthony.manuel, Manuele, on Instagram. You can follow Will at The Art of Move on Instagram. Just pay attention, guys. I've recently found out that there are some fake bots pretending to be me on Instagram. So if you happen across an account that is not anthony.manuel, if there's an extra E in there, there's a 1 at the end of the name, it's fake. It's going to try to scam you by doing a fake crypto investment scheme. Don't fall for it, guys. That's the only time I'll ever mention that as a PSA, but I only have one account, and go follow it. Go DM me. Let me know what you thought of the episode. Let Will know what you thought of the episode. Leave your comments in the section below. Like, comment, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. Thank you so much, guys. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Art of Move podcast.
Have a good one, guys.